Today we are getting ready to dive Petenwell Lake in central Wisconsin to recover a Polaris UTV that has fallen through the ice. Working here today with Justin Kohn and his crew. They already had the hull cut and had already identified with sonar exactly where this UTV was situated. It's in about 15 feet of water. First dive down, I just brought the straps and tied them off on my drop line. I wanted to go check the UTV out and see exactly what we were dealing with. They had already identified that the UTV was upside down and this area was riddled with trees that were still standing when they created the dam and flooded it. There were several personal items that were on the UTV that probably fell off, so we were asked to try to recover those if we could. So on my first dive around, I identified several of these items, but the priority was to get the cable strapped to the front of the UTV for removing it. So after circling the UTV one time, I noticed that the trailer was somehow disconnected. I hadn't quite figured out what the problem there was yet. And I identified the guy's sonar and looked like maybe a furnace, and there was another bag of something. I'm not sure what it was yet at this point. So I got a strap wrapped around each front wheel and choked, and then once those were secure, I was going to go back up and grab the coupling so we can hook the cable onto the straps.
When I come back up, I'll grab that hook.
There were quite a few trees around here which unfortunately don't really show up in the video. There's one larger one stuck on that tray on the back of the UTV, and I was actually wondering how they were going to get that thing pulled out because it looked like a fairly substantial tree. There were a couple other ones too that were wrapped on the trailer, which at this point I didn't realize it was just a sled and didn't have axles or a wheel or anything. Back down to get the cable hook onto the straps. Then I'm going to try to retrieve the first item I found, which I think was a sonar unit, but I'm not super familiar with the gear that these ice fishermen use. Looks like when this thing went down, it quickly flipped over because of the buoyancy of the wheels, and some of the other gear settled down slower, and that's why it landed on the top of the bottom of the ATV. Kind of neat, there was a sonar unit that Justin was using to identify the UTV, which worked really well, and it was kind of interesting because it also picked up the diver and the bubbles and fin kicks, so they could tell when I was coming back to the surface before I actually was showing up at the surface. This trip back to the trailer hitch is when I realized there was no way we could pull this up as one unit. We would need to get a tether line down here and get that thing strapped and then possibly bring it up separate from the UTV.
So the trailer, it's all tangled up in a tree. And the trailer, the pin's missing.
So the temperatures today were 1 degree Fahrenheit, super cold, which affects GoPro cameras, which in my opinion already suck. Anything below 30 degrees and they freeze up and the batteries don't function right. So this camera was working pretty well until I came to the surface and had that short conversation that time, and then it switched to a time-lapse mode, which makes the battery not have to send so much juice out. And that's why this portion of the underwater video is so choppy looking. Thank you, GoPro. Going back a little bit, looking at this sonar, you can see where I start coming up to the surface. Super cool that they have this device.
There's the Vexilar. You got everything. That's it.
I think that's about all I get.
Yeah, that's exactly what he told me. Ready?
Yeah.
Because the video was choppy, I couldn't really show it, but I was able to get that sled out. It was pretty neutrally buoyant. Added a little air to my BCD to help raise it, and then handed it up. They strapped a tether to it and were able to pull it onto the ice. Once Justin got me out of the water, it was time for him and his crew to go to work and get that UTV out from the bottom.
That's going to be wide enough.
Here's a sled that I've been calling a trailer, filled with the miscellaneous gear that I had dragged up from the bottom.
I knew it was tangled up good in something.
There you can see part of that tree that was actually pulled out of the ground when they winched this unit up. Just another successful operation by Justin Kohn and his crew.